How's it going, y'all? Conrad Sports Cards here. You already know how it is. And today I just realized I need a haircut, and I just got my haircut recently too. That kind of sucks because you can tell the sides are pretty short, but the top's a little bit long. I think it might need to be trimmed still. That kind of sucks. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But today I'm going to be going over. Today. Today I'm going to be going over, my predictions for the 2020-2021 NBA season, and I should have released these earlier, but I forgot to, right? So I'm going to be uploading all 3 videos in the same day. Hopefully they're pretty short, like 10 minutes long, maybe 12, 15. I don't want them to make them too long for you guys. So I'm releasing this in 3 parts. This one's going to be the Eastern Conference. The next video should be the Western Conference, and then the last part should be the playoffs, right? So, let's just get straight into it. I've got my notes. It's on one sheet of paper, but I've got my notes. Let's just get straight into it so this doesn't take too long, right? At the number 15 spot in the NBA, or not in the NBA, but the Eastern Conference, the worst team in the entire Eastern Conference to me is going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. However, you could really, put them anywhere between 13 and 15, and I don't think it would matter. All 3 of these teams won like 13, 14, and 15. They're all really bad, so I don't think it matters all too much where you have them ranked, but this is just where I put the Cavs, right? The biggest issue for me is that they're young. They have 4 guys that are all under the age of like 22. I think I might be wrong about that, but they have Colin Sexton, Isaac Okoro, Darius Garland, and Kevin Porter Jr., who are all pretty young. So, obviously they just need some time to develop, but also this team is really, really bad at defense. Their only significantly good defender is Isaac Okoro, and he's still a very young rookie, like one of the youngest in his own draft class. And, he's good, but at this age, in his first year in the NBA, you can't exactly expect him to be like a top 10 defender in the NBA. And I guess you could throw Drummond into that conversation too as far as defense goes, but he's not exactly elite either. Moving on, I'm going to be talking about the Detroit Pistons. Once again, they're kind of young, but this team's also a mess. I do think that this team will be better than people expect because Blake Griffin is really a really, really good player. Was an All-NBA player when he was healthy, but the question, of course, is his health, right? We're not completely sure what to expect from him, how many games, how many minutes, all of the above. So I have him at number 14, and also their chemistry is going to be off. They added a lot of new pieces, and their floor spacing, their fit overall. They have a lot of kind of clashing play styles, and they don't exactly have a lot of amazing three-point shooters. So that's going to be something that they need to improve upon, but I think that they really just need to rebuild, and this is kind of going to be their last-ditch effort at, making a playoff run, right? The 3rd worst team in the NBA, or the 13th spot overall, well, not in the NBA, dang it, I keep saying that, but in the Eastern Conference is going to be the New York Knicks. They're making some significant progress, I guess, because they're not quite as terrible, right? They didn't do anything bad in free agency like they normally do. They have R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, who looks like a nice young core for them. But their fit is honestly quite terrible, right? They have absolutely no floor spacing whatsoever, and that is critical for R.J. Barrett, right? He does a lot of his work driving into the lane, and I think that he's kind of going to underperform, and they really have to change that in order to actually become a relevant franchise again, or, hit in free agency. But this is just not their year. They got to rebuild. Well, they're working on their rebuild, I guess. Number 11 is the Charlotte Hornets. Now, this team is actually not that bad. Gordon Hayward was a nice signing for them, but with, I believe, a broken finger, he could be out for longer than people expect. And LaMelo Ball is going to be having to carry this franchise. I do think that LaMelo Ball is a good passer, but it's going to take a little while before we actually see some significant scoring from him. They also have P.J. Washington, who's a nice piece, great at stretching the floor, although it was only 1 year, so that could be a total fluke season. And he's also going to be playing the center position, which isn't exactly great for a guy that's never done it before, and is only 6'7", I believe. Other than that, there's no really significant pieces. They have Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier, who are both nice. Terry Rozier is a pretty well-rounded point guard, and Graham is a nice scoring piece, but nothing significant, nothing that puts them over the edge. And once again, this is another team that's kind of just trying to become relevant again. Now, the Orlando Magic, who I have ranked at number 10, should be trying to not become relevant right now. They should be trying to rebuild, but I don't know if they're going to be doing that, right? This team just didn't improve much, and the East did improve a lot. Also, losing Jonathan Isaac for the season is really detrimental to this team. He was a very key piece for them on the defensive side of the ball, and while they're still a really good defensive team, he was just a crucial part of that. And it also kind of decreases their depth. Cole Anthony looks nice, but once again, he's not like a superstar right away, so we're going to have to wait a little bit before we see him making a major impact. I personally, once again, I think this team needs to rebuild. They've been stuck in the middle for too long, and they have some nice pieces. If they finally start a rebuild and try to work around that, they could become a nice franchise sometime down the line. But I don't know if that's going to happen. At number 9, not number 9. At number 10, I think I just messed up Hornets and Magic. Hornets are number 12, Magic are number 11, and then the Chicago Bulls are number 10. Once again, another nice young up-and-coming team. They have Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Larry Markkinen, Patrick Williams, Wendell Carter Jr., who are all young, which actually is a very young starting 5, but I think that Otto Porter Jr. will be starting at the 3. However, he's been injury-prone, right? So maybe Patrick Williams does, step in there and make an impact, right? This team is not very good defensively besides Wendell Carter Jr. and Patrick Williams. However, I think that's probably going to be good enough to at least put them near the top 10, but that's not good enough to, place you among the elite of the elite. I expect Kobe White to take a massive leap this season, being the primary point guard and primary ball handler. But once again, they're just lacking experience, lacking experience or lacking experience/age in the league. And it's just going to take some time before we really see, this team step into the limelight, be a somewhat contending team in the playoffs. It's going to take a year or two, right? And this was extremely, extremely hard for me. But at number 9, I have the Washington Wizards. I wanted to put them in the playoffs, but they have a lot of questions for me, right? First of all, I do like Russell Westbrook there. Him and Bradley Beal should be a nice duo. I don't like that he's taking the ball out of the hands of Bradley Beal, but Bradley Beal is used to working off ball, and he can still make a pretty major impact. And he's also a good defender as well. Once again, he was snubbed from an all-star team, averaging, I think, 30 points a game last season, so he definitely should have made it. And it kind of just shows you just how good he is, right? So it's not like they're going to be bad, but the rest of the team has questions, actually, besides Thomas Bryant. I guess I'm just kind of curious who's going to be starting at the 4 or the 3, right? They have Davis Bertans, Rui Hachimura, and Denny Avdia, right? Denny, however, is a player that needs the ball in his hands a lot. He's a passing, playmaking forward, and he's also not a great shooter, right? So even if you do start him, he's going to cause some floor spacing issues, and for a guy like Westbrook, that's not exactly amazing. And that same thing goes hand in hand with Rui as well, right? First of all, Rui is not a good defender, and neither is actually Denny Avdia, but then also Rui Hachimura can't exactly space the floor either. He is a better off-ball piece for them, so maybe he does start over Avdia, but I don't know what to expect because Avdia is a pretty, well-touted prospect in the league. And then Davis Bertans, obviously, he just got a major contract this year, and he's also an elite three-point shooter, so maybe they start him for floor spacing, but the question kind of remains, who starts between Rui and Denny, and just how good are they going to do in this new situation, right? Because Bradley Beal was their primary guard last year, and he helped, without Westbrook, there wouldn't be as many spacing issues, but with him on the roster, there's a lot of questions that are remaining unanswered, right? Just because we haven't seen him play yet. At number 8, and maybe this is kind of why I placed them over the Wizards, but it's my team, my Indiana Pacers. I have them at the 8th seed in the playoffs, although I wouldn't be surprised once again if they switched with the Wizards. I think that they're going to be making a major race for the 8th seed between those two teams. But I just think that this team has a lot of pieces that are going to make they're just still going to be good, right? Domantas Sabonis is an all-star, and I think he'll continue to improve more and more. I'm not saying he's going to take a superstar leap or anything, but he's still a very, very good player. Miles Turner's a nice interior big as far as defense goes, and he can also space the floor really well as well, especially for a guy his size. Malcolm Brogdon is a very well-rounded point guard, and I like him. He can do a little bit of everything on the offensive side of the ball, not as much defense. Victor Oladipo, I don't expect him to make a major jump. I don't think he'll ever return to form. I'm expecting like 17 points from him on good defense, but that's all you really need because I think this roster is going to just be a very well-rounded one. And then TJ Warren actually led this team in scoring. I don't think he'll, be as good as he was in the bubble, but, he averaged 20 points a game last season, and something along those lines really isn't too unrealistic this season either. And then they do have Jeremy Lamb, who is coming off a major injury, but he is still a bench piece for them. He's nothing... He's not like your star player, so you don't have to worry about it as much if he does underperform. They have Aaron Holiday as well, and Justin Holiday, I believe, re-signed with this team, so they have some nice floor spacing there, along with Doug McDermott. Goga Bitadze coming off of the bench is hopefully going to be pretty good for this team. We still have to kind of see what he's going to be because we haven't really seen him much whatsoever, at least at this point in time. And then they also drafted... Who did they draft? I think it was Cassius or Cassius Stanley. I'm not even sure. But hopefully he becomes a nice guard piece for them in the future. At number 7, I have the Atlanta Hawks, and this team does have a lot of questions, but they have too many guys to leave them off this list, right? You have Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, I guess DeAndre Hunter is starting, along with John Collins and Clint Capella, and then off the bench you have Rajon Rondo, Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, Danilo Gallinari, and Onyeka Okongwu. This team has a lot of offense, but their question relies in defense, of course, and I think it's similar to the Minnesota Timberwolves, where they have a lot of offense, but they don't exactly have a lot of defense. However, they do at least have some good defenders. The Timberwolves really don't have anyone like that. But my other biggest issue with this team is chemistry, right? They added a lot of new pieces. They have a lot of young guys that are still trying to kind of figure out what they're going to be as far as a piece for this franchise, right? So there's just a lot of questions with this team, so I can't put them any higher than this, and I don't think anyone expects them to be any higher than this either. At 6, I have the Toronto Raptors. They did take a step back, losing both Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol in free agency, who were key pieces for them as far as their defense goes. Right after that, they replaced him with Aaron Baines, who's not bad because he does allow them to stretch the floor a lot, but he's nowhere near as good of a defender as either Serge Ibaka or Marc Gasol was. This team has a lot of veteran pieces, and they're still very good, but they're not exactly going to be the second seed in my opinion. You have Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Kyle Lowry, but Kyle Lowry, once again, is getting up there in age, and there's just a lot of questions to be had with this roster, especially after the performance that Pascal Siakam had in the bubble. He didn't really play a lot of basketball during, the quarantine that everyone was on, but, is that really the reason that he played so bad, or was it just that he isn't a very good player, right? Has he just kind of been, has he been the player is he not the player that a lot of people were hyping him up to be? I personally don't think so. Maybe he proves me wrong this season, but I can't put the Raptors any higher than 6 at the moment. At number 5, I have the 76ers, and I like seeing the changes that Daryl Morey made. They added Seth Curry and Danny Green, which really helps with their floor spacing, which of course has been one of the biggest issues with this team with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. They do lose out on a little bit of defense, but they still have Matisse Thybulle coming off the bench, who should help them with that as well. They also have Dwight Howard coming off the bench, who's not a bad defender by any means. However, my biggest issue with them is who's their closer, right? If the game's on the line, who are you going to go to? I guess Tobias Harris, but even, it's Tobias Harris. He's not exactly amazing, right? However, he does play better at the 4 position, so I'm thinking he might have a better year this year. Maybe he averages like 20 or so points a game. However, we don't really know with this team, right? And I also just don't think that the extra floor spacing from Seth Curry and Danny Green is going to make all that big of an impact as far as, the duo of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. I just think that they have to break this roster, that duo up. But I don't know if that's going to happen, right? I think that this is kind of their last-ditch effort, once again, of just trying to see, how good can we be? Can this team contend for a championship with these 2 guys, or do we have to break it up? This is going to be their last year. We'll see what happens. At number 4, I have the Miami Heat. They're just too deep, and overall just really well-rounded as a roster. Right, you have Goran Dragic. Hopefully Tyler Hero is going to step into that starting shooting guard position, and I think he'll have a bit of a better year, right? Maybe 17, 18 points a game. Maybe more, who really knows, with a little bit of playmaking in there as well, which is nice. Then you have Jimmy Butler at the 3, who's, of course, your leader. He can take over a game pretty much at any moment, and he plays really good defense as well. Bam Adebayo is one of, if not the best defender in the NBA, besides Giannis, AD, or Kawhi, right? He's up there, but he's not quite on their level as far as the name goes, right? He has to kind of consistently be elite, I think, before people start to place him among that tier of defenders. And what else was I going to say? And then they also just have some nice pieces coming off the bench. They have like Myers Leonard, Duncan Robinson, and Kendrick Nunn as well, so that's not bad by any means. But once again, I don't think they really have the star power to be, the best team in the NBA, and I think that they'll be good, but how good can we really expect them to be, at least during the regular season, right? At number 3, I have the Boston Celtics. They did lose out on Gordon Hayward, and they still haven't exactly fixed their problems at the center position, but during the regular season, I think that there's still a chance that this team does extremely well. You have Jason Tatum, you have Kemba Walker, you have Jaylen Brown, who can all pretty much average like 60 to 70 points a game as a trio, and then you have some other pieces as well. You have Marcus Smart, who's most likely going to be sliding into that starting shooting guard position, and then you also have like Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice, whoever you really want to start at the 5, starting at the 5. The biggest question for this team is depth, especially when there's a chance that, they could potentially end up catching the virus, and all of a sudden, if you're missing out on one of those guys, you don't exactly have a great backup that can step in there and replace him. That's just a really big question for this team. However, I just also don't think that they're better than either of the two teams ahead of them. The second of those teams being the Brooklyn Nets, who I expect to clinch the second seed. There's a chance that this team gets the first seed, but I'm not completely sure if they're going to do that. You have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, who are top 10 players in the NBA. Maybe depending on where you rank Kyrie Irving, I personally have him right at 11. I just have to wait and see how well he comes back. But then you also just have a lot of really nice pieces: Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Joe Harris, DeAndre Jordan, Jarrett Allen, Nick Claxton. All of those guys are very good, whether it's at role players or starters, right? I think Spencer Dinwiddie on another team where he gets more minutes could be an all-star. As you know, when they were both out, he averaged, I believe, 20 and 6. That's a very, very good stat line for him. And I think he's kind of underrated in that aspect. However, I just don't think that they're going to be better than the Milwaukee Bucks, who I have ranked at 1. They have exceptional defense. You have the best or one of the best players in the NBA. Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday rounds out the roster and gives them some better playmaking. You have Dante DiVincenzo, who's a nice floor spacer, 3-and-D type guy. And then you have some solid depth as well with, DJ Augustine, maybe Bobby Portis. So I think during the regular season, this team is definitely going to be up there, as they're always, exceptional during the regular season. During the regular season, though. But that's going to be the end of the video for, this video. I'm going to be releasing 2 more, like I said. It was a little longer than I expected, but what are you going to do, man? I don't really know. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to hit subscribe, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, whatever platform you're listening to, or here on YouTube. Also, check out my socials, whether it's Instagram or TikTok. Both of them are Conrad's, at Conrad's_sportscards. I post a lot more content on there as well. Once again, I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.